All right, welcome everybody back to TA Week. We're super excited. We got another great session here, one that I know I'm really excited to hear about. It's thought leadership and how to level up your hiring strategy with video with Anna Lippe and Bernadette Van Glessen. So welcome. I'll let you two take it, and super excited to hear this session.
Thanks, Joel. Are people able to see my slides or should I share it one more time?
Yep, if you wanna reshare it now, it'd be perfect.
Okay, wonderful.
There we go.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joel, and thanks for having us TA Week. It's been a great first day so far, and I know Anna and myself are really excited to be here. We would love to encourage participation in the chat. I'm sure people have been doing this all day long, but if you want to drop in where you're tuning in from, I'm tuning in from the Washington, D.C. area in Maryland. Anna, do you want to share where you're coming in from?
Coming in from Washington, D.C.
Yeah, we're our DC team. Just to kind of get everyone warmed up today, we're going to be talking a lot about video and a lot about employee storytelling. So we would love to get some answers in the chat. Um, Thinking about your current company, so before you joined, what did you learn about the culture that ultimately made you say yes? So maybe it's a story that a recruiter told you, or something that you read online, or something that you watched in a video, but would love to hear if there was anything that you learned about your company that is the reason why you said yes. People over profits, love that. And if you remember who told you this, I would love to hear if it was like a recruiter or an employee or a story that you heard in a video. They asked for my opinion. I love that. How employee focused they are, direct from an employee. I feel like I connected with hiring manager. That's great. Oh my gosh, I love this. EVP told me about the chaos and the lack of HR confidence. That's great. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later. Just walking in with eyes wide open and the full reality of the role. Integrity, authentic conversations about diversity. Love this. You're not going to be able to talk through all of them, but thanks everyone for sharing this. And I hope gets us in the mindset of the session that employee stories, authentic conversations are really the best way to gain insight about workplace culture. And today we're going to be talking about really bringing that story to the next level through video. Okay, awesome. We'll start to get into it here. So before we dive in, a quick intro to who we are. So we are Stories Inc., your global content partner for uncovering the real stories that bring company culture to life. We turn those authentic stories into videos, blogs, photos, graphics, any type of content that fuels your talent channels. These are just a few of our wonderful clients on the screen here. A little fun fact, every image that you see in this presentation features a photo of a real employee that we have interviewed. So this is Jenny here. She's a real storyteller, and so is every face that you will see throughout the webinar. So authenticity and employee focus is really essential to who we are. And who are we? So my name is Bernadette Van Giesen, and I lead marketing at Stories Inc. I've worked in the employer brand space since 2017, and I love opportunities like this one to share best practices around employee storytelling. Anna, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Anna Lippe. I'm Director of Customer Success at Stories. So I make sure our clients are doing great and having all the resources that they need. And before this, I was working in internal comms, and previously before that, was working as a recruiter. So I know your world very well. Excited to be here today.
Yes, and Anna's going to be sharing a lot of really great insight throughout this presentation from all of her experience on site. So I also want to say we have a jam-packed session today, but we do love to answer your questions. So if you have any questions as we go out, drop them in the chat and we will do our best to answer them throughout. Okay, so we have a great session today. We're going to be talking through the power of video for your hiring strategy, as well as best practices for creating impactful videos. We'll also be sharing 3 real case studies featuring companies that are currently using video to impact their hiring. And we are going to leave you with campaign ideas that you can apply within your own organization. Okay, Anna, want to get us started?
Yeah, so first, let's explain and kind of explore why video is such an important part of your brand's hiring strategy. So video has a measurable impact on hiring efforts. So some stats here. First, video is memorable. 95% of a message is remembered when it's video. Second, video is engaging. So LinkedIn posts receive 20 times the number of shares if it includes a video. And third, video drives action. There's a 36% increase in job applications when a job post includes video. So some pretty compelling stats. And we all know, especially in today's world of AI and user-generated content creation, that of course, not every video is created equal. So that's why it's more important than ever to be really intentional about creating videos that engage the viewer and serve a purpose. And so you might be wondering, like, what makes a great video? At its core, it's all about delivering the right message in the right place at the right time. The right message means tailoring your story to your target candidate. So, are you trying to connect with early career talent or experienced engineers? You have to understand what they care about most and then speak directly to those priorities. And then next, the right place is all about choosing the right channels. So, where does your audience spend their time? LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, other channels. Certain video styles perform better on some channels than others. So your distribution plan actually matters almost as much or as much as the content itself. And then the right time, that's really where the candidate journey comes in. So someone who's just discovering your company needs, of course, a different message than someone preparing for their final interview. That's why mapping the content to the talent lifecycle is really key, from awareness to consideration to decision making. And then as we think about the message and creating video content that really resonates, it's important to remember the most impactful videos are powered by real employee stories. So we know storytelling has become a bit of a buzzword lately. And when we think about a story, we really think about something then that goes deeper than generic cultural platitudes like we're like a family. So stories are specific. Something actually happened and there's a narrative. They're personal. They build an emotional connection with the audience. They're realistic. They give real insight into the company culture. And your company can be and should be a character in the story. So for example, maybe medical leave helped an employee navigate a difficult life event. And finally, stories inspire action. The story helps talent opt in or opt out of joining your organization, and that's really important. And so we wanted to share an example that we love from one of our clients AARP, that really brings their supportive culture to life. So we can take a watch now.
People often ask, like, why have you been here 18 years? My wife gets diagnosed with breast cancer. I leaned a lot on the resources that we provide as an individual that AARP provides. For me to step away and be there for my family, and no one here pressured me on this is due. It was, take care of your family. It really put things into perspective for me and what is truly important. And caregiving leave. And then through our benefits department, figured out that we also have resources such as therapy. It really comes back full circle, that seeing yourself, in a situation as a caregiver. And again, just being reflective of, I work for an organization that gets this. It put it into perspective for me. When you do go through things, this is an organization that, is walking the talk.
I love that video, and I think it really hits on all of the points that Anna shared on the previous slide. So it's specific. He talks specifically about his family situation. It's very personal, and the photos really bring that to life. The company's a character. He talks specifically to the benefits, and he really does a great job of really tying it back to the culture. So just a reminder that stories really go so much further than testimonials. So really try to focus on the story in your video content.
People often ask,
Awesome. So now that we have talked about the importance of video in your hiring strategy, let's talk about real best practices for bringing it to life and actionable things that you can do. So while every video format is going to have its own unique approach, there are a few best practices that apply across the board, and these three are at the heart of how we create content at Stories Inc. The first is creative discovery. So before the cameras even start rolling, taking the time to define the goal of the video and the look and feel you're hoping to create. I know that might sound basic, but we see all the time, and it's really easy just to kind of like jump in head first because you're really excited to create this video. So it's really important to stop for a beat and answer questions like, what's the topic that I'm hoping to bring to life? Are we like, what kind of tone are we hoping to capture? Is it to be inspiring or informative or edgy? Thinking through the channels that we are planning on sharing the video on. Because the answers to these questions are going to influence the way you film, the music you select, graphic style, and even the interview questions that you are going to ask. So laying that foundation up front and checking in with yourself and your stakeholders is going to really help you crystallize your vision and set your video up for success. The second is thoughtful storyteller selection. So during a typical Stories Inc. filming day, we interview 8 employees. Our clients pick the people, but we always recommend prioritizing diversity in all senses of the word. So including a variety of roles within your organization, not just including senior leaders, but also making sure that you're featuring individual contributors that are actually doing the work day in and day out, featuring people from different locations, someone who's been at your company for a long time, someone who just joined last year. They have different perspectives, as well as people that are involved with different groups. Maybe they're really active in an ERG. So hopefully you get the picture, but thoughtful storyteller selection really provides a wider, more realistic lens into your culture, which is really great for your content quality. But this approach also is going to produce a huge variety in the types of stories that you uncover, which ultimately will allow you to create so much more content in the long run, speaking to all the different parts of your organization. So it's super important, no matter what type of video that you're creating, to be really thoughtful and strategic about who you are choosing to interview. And third, use a facilitated interview process. So we live in the age of user-generated content, as Anna mentioned earlier, and which can be a beautiful thing. But when it comes to capturing meaningful stories, handing someone a phone and saying like, go create a day in the life video rarely gets the job done. And so we always recommend a facilitated interview, which means having a skilled interviewer guide the conversation. They will help storytellers feel more comfortable on camera. You know, that storyteller will feel like they have someone along for the ride with them. And they also are able to ask those follow-up questions that dig deeper and get the best stories. So oftentimes we find that the best stories come from like 2 to 3 follow-up questions within a given topic. And without a facilitated interviewer to guide that conversation, we never would have gotten that story. So those 3 best practices will apply to pretty much any video that you create, but it's also really important to recognize that video is not one size fits all, and there's so many types of videos out there. So even when we just say video for hiring, it's like such a loaded topic. So there's so many formats and styles to choose from. And so as you think about delivering that right message to the right place at the right time, picking the right type of video is a huge part of getting that right. So now we're going to share 3 of what we think are some of the most powerful and impactful videos to your hiring strategy, with examples, and then Anna's going to share some best practices of things that she has seen from our client projects. Okay, first up is that classic compilation video. So featuring multiple employee storytellers, all speaking to a shared theme. Some perfect topics for compilation videos is your culture, your EVP pillars, or to get a little bit more focused and strategic, speaking to a specific team experience like sales or engineering, or maybe featuring early career interns at your organization. So any kind of topic that you want to have multiple people speaking to a shared experience. What makes compilation videos so compelling is or what makes them so effective is their versatility. So they're a really great way to show consistent themes across your organization, which really helps build trust with candidates and help them get an idea of what it's actually like to work at your company. So it's not just kind of like a one-hit wonder kind of story, it's hearing it from many people across your organization. In terms of when and where to share it, they're especially powerful during the consideration phase. So going back to that funnel. So when you think about when talent is actively researching your company, they're visiting oftentimes your static channels like your career site, Glassdoor. They're subscribing to your talent community. So those are some of the places that you can be featuring these compilation videos to create the most impact. And please feel free to drop questions in the chat as we go along. So now we have an example of a compilation video that I really love. So Stories Inc. worked with the Not Worldwide to create a series of compilation videos, including this one that speaks to their caring culture.
I like an excuse to celebrate. I like the moments that matter. It's what made me first look at the Not Worldwide. There's been many instances in my journey here where I have just felt so cared for and so appreciated, and not just because of the work that I do, but because of the person that I am.
Own people, real people that interact with you. You get to know what they're doing. You get to know how they are. And not just like in a meeting, but you can meet them, you can discuss with them. You can share like, moments of celebration, but at the same time, you can share like moments of difficult times.
I've had 2 miscarriages and I was able to take the time I needed. No questions asked. My team stepped up for me. And to be able to do that and not feel like you are falling behind in your career, it's huge. Our chief people officer, she reached out to me and she was like, I'm thinking about you, share your personal story with me. It was a very big deal to even just have her acknowledge that this is what was going on in a moment where you could feel really overlooked for taking the time to do that. And that's the community that we've created, is to really say, like, we have each other's back.
We're advocates of one another, and we have a unique opportunity to be able to help empower one another too.
When I got married, we have this event in India called Sangeet. It's an evening where everyone comes together and dances. And there are stage performances that happen. Everyone who has ever reported to me in Wedding Bar India, all the girls were on the stage. I got so emotional. I was like, oh my God, my girls. 1 or 2 of them had moved on. Just seeing them back together on that stage, like one happy family of sisters, that was very special to me. As I look back now and I think why I was able to create this bonds, I think it was because I was given the freedom to be the kind of leader I wanted to. When you can authentically do that, I think it's easier for you to make stronger bonds at work.
The people are great. It's one of the reasons why I'm here and have been here for so long. The authenticity, genuine essence of a lot of folks here makes it feel like someplace that I could be forever.
I love that compilation video. And I mean, for a few reasons, I think the beginning did such a great job of kind of hooking you in and saying like, this is why I love working here. But I also love just the range of experiences you hear. And when you think about caring for your colleagues, we hear about someone showing up for a wedding and like being there for the celebratory moments, but we also hear a really personal, really vulnerable story of how someone was supported through a very, very challenging time in their life. So seeing that range, I think just speaks, especially people from different areas of the world, just really speaks to how the caring aspect of the Not Worldwide's culture is really experienced universally. We got one question in the chat. So talking about channels, about where to share compilation videos, should you also share these on social? I would say absolutely yes. And actually later in this presentation, we're going to share a quick case study of how the Not Worldwide shared these videos really successfully on social. So definitely would say yes, can and should share them on social, but it shouldn't be the only types of videos that you're sharing on social. Because as a lot of data points to, the shorter form video that really captures attention in the first 3 seconds and is really optimized more like visually for scrolling is the best performing content on social, but there absolutely is still an appetite for this type of content in your content mix. Okay, so now Anna, can you tell us some kind of like in the weeds best practices for creating great compilation videos?
Yeah, absolutely. So many elements go into making a great compilation video with multiple employee voices, and I also love that example from the Knot. So the first is around diverse storyteller selection. So this is around including different voices from different roles, backgrounds, tenures, locations. So in the video that we just watched, we hear from storytellers both in the US and then team members in India, which kind of shows how the Karen culture is felt worldwide and that kind of consistent culture no matter where you live. So the next is a strong hook. So we recommend trying to grab attention in those first 5 to 10 seconds using a powerful story, surprising fact, or energetic moment. And something we love to do is using behind the scenes or blooper footage, really to draw in the viewer and make them keep watching. Next is every statement needs a story. So like we talked about earlier, we try not to fall into the trap of only describing a culture with platitudes like we value teamwork. We recommend really showing it through real examples. So what this can look like is, a good flow being a culture statement followed by a specific supporting story that shows that in action. So it can look like a statement, then a story, a statement, and then a story. And so you saw that just in the video we just watched. And then lastly, the best compilation videos have a clear message. So it's great to keep the theme focused and think about less is more. A common pitfall is really trying to cram too much into one video. Instead, we recommend creating several videos that capture and hold attention. And we found 1 to 3 minutes kind of to be that sweet spot for compilation videos. And I know we had a Q&A question around length. And so hopefully that answers it, but please let us know if we can clarify because it's a good question.
Awesome, thanks, Anna. So next up, a second video style that is really popular and really effective right now is the realistic job preview. So these videos are incredibly engaging because they offer real insight into what a specific role or team or even location is actually like at your company. The best realistic job previews include tons of hands-on B-roll footage that show employees doing the work, whether that's coding or working on a factory floor or collaborating in a lab. So really the emphasis on the B-roll footage. And when it comes to distribution and timing, realistic job previews are really versatile, which is another reason why they're so effective. So because they're so visual, they're really attention grabbing, which makes them really perfect for social media and top of funnel brand awareness because they really just capture your attention and kind of stop you in your scroll. But these videos also perform really well lower in the funnel. So think about embedding them in your job descriptions or on team specific landing pages. Like if you have an engineering page of your career site, having a realistic job preview of a software engineer would be a really great idea. They're also really great in interview prep and follow-up emails as candidates are moving closer towards applying or moving through the interview process. So next we have an example from Stellantis, the automaker, and we worked with them to create a series of realistic job previews. We really love this example because of the B-roll footage, and it does a really great job of bringing to life a job that I would guess a lot of people, including myself, did not know existed. So we hope you enjoy it.
One of the things that I love most about my job is when I see what I've been a part of driving down the road, I'm just like, I did a little bit of that. My name is Michelle Menendez, and I am a clay sculptor for Stellantis. I went to college of creative studies. Then I found this job here by chance. I was teaching art and I received a letter in the mail for a industrial clay sculptor class, which I had never heard of. And I said, I'm gonna put my application in. We got to meet a lot of the designers that were in the field. They would assist us and show us sculpted cars. It was just like a whole different world for me. This whole idea of building a car out of clay full size was like mind blowing. I've worked in the interior studio. The process begins with the designer's vision. Then we take their two-dimensional visions and take them to the 3D world. We actually build the interiors, the doors, the steering wheels, down to the little knobs that changes your radio station. The cool part is you use specific tools for specific tasks. And a lot of the tools I have made myself in our shop so that we get exactly what we need. I think about how fortunate I am to have this to come to every day. I work with creative people that inspire me on a daily, and I hope I inspire some people myself.
Such a cool video. I'm glad I see some people in the chat that they found this interesting. And I think, I mean, it does a lot of things that shows a really interesting job, and I think it reaches an audience, the creative artist community, that probably would never envision themselves working for an automaker. So a really great use of video.
One of the
Anna, can you tell us a little bit more about how to create these awesome realistic job previews?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I've seen this video so many times and I love it every time I watch it again. It's one of more than 50 Meet the Maker videos that we've created with Stellantis. So we partnered with them on a series called Meet the Makers. And when we go to create a realistic job preview, here are some of the best practices that we keep in mind. So first is around more prep up front. So that could look like storyboarding and pre-interview with the storyteller just to get a better understanding of their role, what does their day-to-day look like. Next is around prioritizing filming location and B-roll. And so when we filmed this interview, it was one of 6 interviews we did that day, each in a unique location to bring that specific role to life. And as you saw in the video we just watched, seeing her in the clay modeling location really brought the role to life much more than if she was just talking about it, but we didn't really see her in action. And then our last 3 tips are really about what type of messages to include in your realistic job preview. So first, really show the full reality. And this means like be honest, even if there are some less desirable parts of the role. So if the job involves early morning or physical labor or being in office 5 days a week, that's okay. It helps candidates self-select in or out before they even apply. Next is address common questions. So you'll save time, improve fit, and similarly attract people who actually want the job as it really is. And finally, show the greater impact. So even if the role is tactical or more behind the scenes, help connect the dots to that larger mission or how they fit into your organization.
Yeah, I think actually that one was how the Stellantis video opened, which is kind of cool. It opened with like when she sees the cars on the road. I'm thinking like I had a little part of that. So they actually used that tip to open up this video. Awesome. And our third video style that we are going to talk about today is the leader spotlight. So this is another really popular format right now. That is a really powerful type of video to have for your organization. So leader spotlights feature individual leaders sharing their story and perspective within your organization. So they are a really powerful way to humanize your leadership while also raising awareness for key initiatives across the business. So for example, let's say that you've made a commitment to reaching gender parity by like 2030. Highlighting a leader who is involved in making that a reality or highlighting female leaders within your organization would be a great way to support that initiative by humanizing and showing your leaders. This type of content, like the realistic job preview, is incredibly versatile. So they work great on social media. We are hearing more and more how both employees and candidates really want to hear from leaders, especially during challenging and difficult times. So featuring leader stories has become not even just like a nice to have, a must have. People really want to hear from them. So they're great on social media for passive and active candidates alike. They're really great on landing pages, so department or team landing pages, as well as interview prep emails, because these stories give candidates a chance to get to know the leader that they might be working with most closely. So this will just help build trust and create a more personal candidate experience before they even get to their interview. And I know today we're talking a lot about hiring and candidate focused video, but I do want to mention that leader spotlights are extremely valuable internally for engaging employees. They can be used to reinforce company values, build engagement, and strengthen internal culture. So definitely consider partnering with your corporate or internal comms teams to amplify these stories inside your organization too. Okay, so we have a video example here. It's an inclusion story from a leader at the National Eye Institute, which is a part of NIH.
My family story is that my parents moved to the US from Taiwan in the late 1960s. I would consider Detroit, Michigan, my hometown. I think that at the time that I was growing up, there was a lot of anti-Asian sentiment in Detroit because of resentment around the Japanese and the US auto industry. As a second-year resident in the late 1990s, I remember sitting in a lecture and noticing that the person who was standing at the podium lecturing was of Asian descent. I had never seen that before. At the time, there were very few senior people in ophthalmology who were of Asian backgrounds. And that really struck me. I thought, gosh, I've never been able to truly see myself in the speaker who's up there. It's my hope that by creating a workforce that is more diverse, we can get more people up on the podium who can help inspire those in the audience who are earlier in their careers.
Another great video. Anna, I know in your time at Stories Inc., you've interviewed a ton of leaders and have a lot of great tips to share. Can you give us a little insight into leader spotlights?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have had the privilege of interviewing lots of leaders, including conducting the interview of the video you just watched. So we found that interviewing senior leaders presents some unique challenges and opportunities, and we have some tips to share. So first is around custom storyteller prep. So we found that, of course, every leader is different. So be prepared to meet them where they are. So this could be a one-on-one phone call or just a one-pager shared with their admin, or it could be prepping them day of, just in the moment, right before they're about to get on camera. Next is getting them off script. So as we know, lots of leaders are used to media training. So facilitating that interview is more important than ever. Next is show their journey to where they are today. So I love including a leader's backstory, and the NEI video we just watched did that really well. It really helps make leaders relatable and show how they got to where they are. And of course, we included some great photos from his past as well. And finally, make it a series. So more and more, we're seeing the importance of activating leader voices on their own platforms like LinkedIn. So don't let a fantastic leader interview just be a one-off video, really create a series. And I see some chats in the webinar that some of you are doing that, which is fantastic. This really builds trust over time on both your corporate channels as well as the leaders channel as well.
Thanks, Anna. And yeah, I love seeing some of the stuff in the chat here that people are doing some of this. So that's so great. So now to kind of close out the last couple minutes of our session here, we are going to share some real case studies from companies that are using video to impact hiring. So our first case study comes from the Knot Worldwide. So we saw the caring culture video earlier in the presentation. And the Knot partnered with Stories Inc. to launch a brand awareness campaign. Their challenge was that they had an incredible people-first culture, but no one outside of the company really knew about it. So they came to us to help bring their culture to life through employee stories. What we did was we interviewed 8 employees in one filming day, and we produced 3 compilation videos, including that one that we saw earlier. But what's really special about this project, and I think kind of the biggest takeaway that people could take from this, is how thoughtfully their team rolled it out. They rolled out the videos in a coordinated internal and external launch. So first they shared the videos internally at an all hands meeting. The response from employees was really amazing. They were so excited to see their colleagues featured. They were really touched by the stories and ultimately walked away from that all hands meeting with a deeper connection to the company culture. Immediately after that all hands meeting finished, the employer brand team launched the content externally on the corporate LinkedIn and Instagram channels. And they also supported this launch with a simple but effective media kit that gave employees tips, prompts, ideas on how they could interact with and promote the videos on their own channels. So here's a picture of what some of that launch looked like. So sharing on the corporate channels, as well as encouraging the storytellers and employees to interact with, like, comment, and share the videos on their own channels. And this campaign was really effective. They found across social that the videos received 50 hours of watch time in 3 days, 12,000 impressions in a week on LinkedIn and Instagram, and a 4.42% engagement rate on LinkedIn in 1 week. And all of these significantly outperformed their channel averages. So yeah, I think this is a really great campaign. And I think a really great lesson people could take away is think about how the timing of when you're launching your content. And if you can pair it with some kind of internal initiative, you can really maximize and compound the effect and reach that you can have by getting employees involved. Anna, can you take us through our next case study?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll run through this a little quickly just in the interest of time. But lots of stats here on the screen. And so we wanted to look at a compelling case study from Stellantis and Meet the Makers. So this is the same client, same company as the clay modeling video we just watched earlier. So Stellantis was facing increasing competition for manufacturing talent. And like many companies in the industry, they needed to attract a new generation to roles that are often misunderstood or overlooked. And so the goal was to humanize the leadership, recognize and celebrate contributions of current employees, and then really highlight the stories behind the vehicles. So not just show the product, but also people who make it happen. And so we interviewed 51 employees and produced more than 50 videos, the majority of which were those realistic job previews. And the Meet the Makers campaign focused on telling authentic, relatable stories straight from the shop floor and also from Stellantis leaders. What's really exciting is the series produced some of their highest performing LinkedIn posts to date and drove major engagement internally with employees, especially in those featured locations. And this campaign has been an ongoing strategy really to bring culture and jobs to life through this content.
Awesome. And then we're going to move quickly through this last case study here. But Stories Inc. partnered with a pharma tech company to help them refresh their career site by launching a mix of compilation videos and employee spotlights. So, and they used the compilation videos to highlight their culture and EVP, and the spotlights to feature key jobs and locations. And once they launched the video on their all the content on their career site, they saw really powerful results. I think this first one is really impactful, that candidates who watched a career site video were 5.5 times more likely to be hired. And then the content was also linked to increase in starting applications, as well as those applicants reaching advanced hiring stages. So really connecting the content to not just candidates taking action, but also increased candidate quality. Okay. Awesome.
And we've covered a lot, and we want to leave you with some actionable ways to start incorporating video into your hiring strategy. And so thinking about where you can make the most impact, whatever direction you choose with some of the options on the screen, know that video strategy will be unique to your specific organization. And we're always here to share our perspective, and if you want to further explore what storytelling content could look like at your organization.
Yes, so we made it. Thanks everyone for joining us today. I know we probably don't have time for a ton of questions, but thank you so much for being here and being active in the chat and asking great questions along the way. If you want to learn more about Stories Inc. or you like how we talk about content, please subscribe to our newsletter. We share storytelling best practices every other Wednesday. And if you're looking to create employee storytelling content and want to learn more about Stories Inc., here is a QR code that you can schedule an intro call with our team. But thank you so much. It was so great to be here, and we hope to see you all out in the employer brand orbit in the future. Have a great rest of TA week.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.